Hey everyone, this is Stealth. Welcome back to Heroes Workshop, and I'm bringing you another cosplay build. It's the bat suit from the 1989 film, the one that Michael Keaton wore. I've always loved this suit since I was a kid. Like, this is my Batman from my era. I'm really happy I got to make this suit. Like, I never thought I'd be able to make out of EVA foam. Like, the whole suit is out of EVA foam. I really wanted to challenge myself. Like, I know it's not 100% movie accurate, but I think I really captured the tone and the feel of the 89 suit. So if you want to build your own 1989 Batman suit, I have the Pepakura files on my website. I also have the Batman Return files as well. Check those out. You can build this suit or that suit, whichever one you prefer. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I built this, mainly giving you guys tips on how to do the muscle detail and some tips on the cowl. Especially with the muscle detail, I basically had to create that technique to do it this way using Pepakura Designer and obviously foam. So don't worry, those things will be explained in detail. But remember, the basics of Pepakura Designer and using it to make cosplay with EVA foam, those won't be covered in this video. So if you're wondering what's Pepakura Designer, what's EVA foam even, what basics, what are you talking about, watch this video right here and it all makes sense. And as always, if you're new to Pepakura foam building and cosplay in general and you want to get started, this is a great way to get into the hobby. I have an in-depth video on my channel and learn all the techniques. You can build a sample project, and then you can apply all those techniques you learned on a sample project on any foam Pepakura file you come across, and it should be no problem. So you don't need a fancy workspace to do this. I'm working in a small space from now on. It's to prove a point that you don't need a workshop or all these machines and equipment to build an amazing foam cosplay. You can do that right in your own home in a small space like this. So that's the beginner tutorial. That's basically the handbook on how I build. I apply those techniques to every build that I do. Nothing changes. Putting templates on foam is always the same for me. I don't do anything different. So watch the video if you're new, build a sample project, and then apply those techniques to this build as well. So I hope you enjoy the build as you see it come together, and maybe you'll be inspired to try an attempt to make your own Batman suit. Do it, man. You can do it. I did it. Look at this thing. Okay, so I have all the pieces cut out, all the angles cut for a specific piece that's going to correspond to and connect to. So use the Pepakura Designer. And remember all the beginner tutorial tips on how to choose the right angle. Angled cut and slight angled cut and straight cut. So remember those from the beginner tutorial on Pepakura and foam building, and you should be fine. I'll try to explain some of the cuts, so that way it gives you a little bit of a shortcut. I also did a shortcut with the front nose section here. So I merged a few pieces, and I'll show you what I did. Created a new template with the 3 pieces here. The 3 pieces that made the nose and eye area, like that, and I traced a new section. And then I also made sure that the nose had a mark in it. As you can see, I did kind of like a stencil, and on the back piece here, it allowed me to do a valley cut. So you just basically do an angle cut and an angle cut in that same spot and then pull out. So I just create a mark with the marker underneath like that. See, so then you have the line, and then you finish it with a ruler. So let's say this was the line on the back of that face section. So you would just take the knife, do like an angled cut, but don't go through all the way. That's the trick. Don't go through all the way. There's a little bit of a cut in there on an angle, and then you go on the other side and cut an angle again. Try to connect the V, make like a V cut. And you go in and you pull that piece out. Then see, there's a valley in there. It'll allow you to have a bend in the foam without actually having to have two pieces glued together. It saves a lot of time and it gives you like a nice subtle look. So in my opinion, it's needed for the Batman nose section because there is a bend in his mask, but it's not like, you don't want to have like a seam, right? So this is the best way to do it, by having a undercut, valley cut at the back. So just a quick tip. Remember to leave a gluing tab on top because the eyebrow section is going to glue on top of that. That's another tip. So make a gluing tab. Remember, these tips are all in the Pepakura beginner tutorial with foam, so always refer to that if you're stuck. So what you're going to do first is you're going to use a heat gun and heat shape all these pieces as much as possible. A lot of things you're going to need heat shaping is this. You want to kind of bend this as much as possible. I know it's very thin, but you want it to have a curve so that way it's easy to glue together to the next piece. You have to just look at the model and see what has curves and what doesn't, and that's what you'll give a heat shape. Okay, these you also want to heat shape. These are the clavicle, I don't know, your neck thing, I think it's the clavicle, I can't remember. Yeah, so you're gonna have to heat shape it and then kind of pre-bend it, so that way when you glue it, it has that 3D look. You don't want it flat, because this part I modeled it into the file, so you definitely want to take advantage of having it nice and full, so that way it stands out. First I'm going to use the ball with foil as a form. Use a heat gun to heat up the foam. You can use a hair dryer if that's all you got. Might have to, use a little bit longer, but it works. Okay, so you just want to put it over the foam ball to form it. Just giving it a little bit of curve. You're not going to curve it too much. So remember, this is the brow area here, so I put a gluing tab. This was where the brow will sit on top here. So it'll be glued like that. It'll have a 3D look when it's done. It all makes sense when I'm gluing it all together. I'm doing these two giant pieces first because then this is basically the base of the cowl and everything's going to be attaching to it. So that's how you should work when you're building in foam. Take the biggest pieces because usually those will be, like I said, the base. Everything will attach to that. Also, they're the most difficult, I guess, in terms of gluing because you're going to have to line it up all the way. So I'm going to glue these together just to give you an idea how it goes if you're new to this. So I take some scrap foam and with this kind of pointed edge here. You have lots of scrap foam when you're building, so I save these and cut them up. Then you take some contact cement and put it on both sides very thin and then let that get tacky and then glue them together. The most important thing is get it as close to the edge as possible because then you'll have a nice clean seam. Another tip for good seams is always have a sharp knife, sharp blade on your knife. So I just grab a pack of these 100 blades, really cheap. I think it was like $8. And every time I'm done, a few big sections, and I just change the blade. I don't bother sharpening it. I just change the blade. They're cheap enough. I think it's like 5 cents. Not even, especially for angled cuts, you really need a very sharp blade. So if your pieces aren't joining properly, it's because your blade is probably dull. Pick the two ends. As always, make sure the seam is the focal point first. It's very hard to build, and make sure you're on camera, so bear with me. The first big section. The seam is very good, and then go back and just kind of press it down. If you want, you can even turn it inside out, like that. Then flip it back, and the seam should be nice and tight. I'll probably go back and obviously sand that, but get it as good as possible before you move on. So now you have an idea of how to glue a couple pieces together. So now we're just going to go through and quickly assemble the mask. Then you'll get a good idea what it looks like. Okay, so now I'm going to start gluing the smaller pieces, which is funny because I just went from gluing the biggest piece together now to the smaller pieces, because this is probably the most intricate section of the build. So the nose, it's going to meet at 2 angled cuts. You want it very sharp, I guess. So you want that kind of sharp bend. So these are 2 angled cuts. So we're going to attach this. This is the part that covers your nose. So this is obviously angled cut because it needs to be very sharp angle. So 2 angled cuts. Then there's this little section in between the brow. These two little pieces here. It's right in the middle. You'll see. So then these are angled cuts. See? So remember, when you have this piece, remember to make an angled cut underneath here at the bottom of this middle section for the brow, because you want this little piece to sit here and you want it to glue onto this glue tab that you made. So you want it to sit like that. So it has an angle kind of to rest on there. So just remember to cut an edge so that way it can rest and glue on nicely. Okay, so now for the rest of the mask, what I did was I put some contact cement on the gluing tab for the brow. Remember to add that, and for that little section in the middle, that point, you can see it there. So you want to put these together first. This is just a slight angle. You don't need to do too sharp. You can probably get away with a sharp angle. It might be a bit better, more pronounced, I guess. But I think that's subtle enough. Remember to put a gluing tab on the edge there, because that's where the center one will sit. You see what I mean in a second? So now that you have glue on the back side of this one, you want to put it like that. Okay, same thing on this side. So it doesn't look like much right now. So now you want to attach this all together to this section here. You can see how it's, the brow is very pronounced. It actually has shadow in it. Then you want to connect this part here. Connect this middle part here. I'm gonna put some contact cement here and then push this down, and that way it will close this gap here. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is very intricate, so I wanted to show you how it, some tips on how to get this to work really well. I love all the Batman iterations with certain things, but my favorite is the Keaton Batman. Here's my little 89 shrine. Got my Kenner Batmobile, NECA stuff with the grapnel and the Batarang. Some few figures there. And this is what started my love for it all. So this is the original cassette that I watched the movie for the first time. The story behind it was when I was a kid, I went with my parents. They went to go buy a new TV. It because our old one basically broke. And with the TV came a free video cassette of your choosing. There was a shelf. I remember it vividly. All these movies up there. I immediately gravitated to this cassette. But my brother had already grabbed another movie. He chose this movie, Throw Mama from the Train. I don't know why he picked that. It had Billy Crystal and Danny DeVito in it. Maybe because he liked Danny DeVito. Who knows? But I was still holding on to this thing. And my brother already picked that movie. And then the guy who sold my parents the TV is like, "Oh, you guys are brothers?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. We can let you have that movie." So he actually let me keep this, even though you're only allowed one. So that was a very nice salesman. When I got home, I immediately watched it, and I was blown away. Finally seeing an amazing Batman on screen. You can see 2 dots and a nose and a line for the mouth. I remember doing this. I don't know why, but I don't care. Childhood memories. So yeah, I've kept this the whole time, and it's just something that I always want to keep as a memory. So here's the template for the torso, the chest and shoulder armor sections. You know, as like I always do, like I did for the cowl, like I do for all my projects, I merge templates and to create bigger templates to reduce seams. You can see a lot of the pieces with notches. They're called darts, but I just call them notches and little cuts. They were taped together, same thing like I did for the cowl, and then I pressed down on the cardstock, traced that template, and created a new template, a merge template. So I recommend doing this so it's easier to flip it rather than turn that other template inside out, because sometimes those cuts that you tape up, it will come apart. So you'll do it once and it'll come apart, and then you might flip it over, and then that cut might have opened up a little bit, and then you might not get the same kind of measurement on the other side. It might be a little bit off, so you want it the same. So I recommend doing that. And remember to use the base for the abs. This is where everything's going to go on top. Remember to leave a gluing tab for the chest. Everything's going to go here. Remember to leave a gluing tab for the emblem. This is where the emblem will go on top. This is not the emblem itself. This will just fit here. And this is where you're going to need to know the basics of Pepakura and foam, where you need to put your gluing tabs and your edges. So this will be like angled cut. And then this will be a gluing tab for the lower chest to sit on top of, and then this will be an angled cut to give it a 3D look when it's glued to this edge here. Like you're probably wondering, how will I scale this? So you can take the measurement scale from your cowl and apply that to this. So let's say go to settings, set scale, and you see here, if your cowl fits you really well and you see this scale here, apply that to your torso section as well and see how that goes. It will scale the torso file proportionally to the cowl, because the cowl and the torso was modeled together. So what you can do is, once you print out the templates, take this, put it on your own chest and look at it in the mirror, see if it looks good before you actually apply it to foam. You can even tape up some with some masking tape and get a good idea, like I do this. But those are just some tips I can give you before I start tracing this and assembling it. But once I assemble it, I'll give you a bit more idea of how it goes together. Another tip, as always, with Pepakura and foam, go through and make notes of what angles and if there's gluing tabs or anything like that, and just put it on the template. That way you can know what's an angled cut, where you put gluing tabs. So now that I got that out of the way, let's start tracing these templates and we'll build the Batman 89 chest armor. all the pieces are cut out. Before you start heat shaping and assembling them all, I just want to give you another tip. This is the ab base. Just remember to scale that the same way I showed you how to scale the chest to the cowl. Take the chest piece, remember to put a line in it when you're tracing the template, because you need this line to divide and make it symmetrical. So you just take the pieces. Okay, so we'll put this right at the edge. You can, I'm using like black Sharpie, but use silver Sharpie so you know what you're doing. You can see where you're going. So here's the gluing tab. Here's the actual edge of the ab base. So what you're going to do is just trace. Okay, and then flip and trace the other side for the other ab. So you'll be tracing where they're going to go, and then once you have everything traced out, you're going to take the actual ab pieces, heat shape them, and then make sure you have the right edges for each one, and you're going to glue them all down like that. And once they're, trust me, once they're heat shaped and everything, they'll have that curve. And make sure you get the seam very tight, and then it'll get like a nice 3D effect. But I'll show you guys that when I get there, but that's just to give you like some info ahead of time. So this is the ab base with all the abs traced on. Like I said, look, see? So remember, there's like, these are all beveled cuts. Once you glue these down, you can squish and push all these together. Plus when you heat shape it, like I also said, it should make it fit a bit better. I'll get that 3D look, but you'll see once it's all being assembled. Okay, so here's the chest so far, with the pecs to the base. You can see I've already put some contact cement on the edge of where the abs are going to go. I have some pieces of abs to give you guys an idea how it's going to glue on. You can see here, the edges are all beveled. I heat shaped it a little bit. What you want to do is, similar to everything else, see? Get that 3D effect. Do the same thing for the next piece. Make sure all the edges are pinched down. Don't leave any lifted edges. You can kind of get an idea what's going on here. Get that 3D look. So all the abdominal muscles have been glued on to the chest armor. Looking really good. I like that I left some space in between the center, because obviously there's some separation in abdominal muscles. What I would do next time if I was to rebuild this is do these pecs with 6mm foam and then the rest with 5mm, because I feel like this needs a little bit more thicker foam just to get more of a solid shape, but it's fine. it's passable, it's doable, it looks great, but just my personal opinion, 6mm foam for the pecs, and then glue it on top of ab base and abs that are 5mm. So you can do that for yours and you'll get ahead of the game. So now we got that done, we move on and do the other sections for the shoulders and the bicep covers and then the back section. That's really easy, just heat shaping and gluing. Just follow the Pepakura designer, see what connects to what, and we should be done this upper torso section. Now we're going to get the templates ready for the leg armor. So this is what you need to do for a lot of Pepakura files that are rounded, like organic shapes, especially the Batman costume. It's very organic. This isn't like a Halo armor, which is just a lot of boxy shapes. So you're going to need to do some things to the templates. I do this on a lot of things. The best example of this would be the Winter Soldier arm, where I created the rounded muscle shapes. So this is going to be pretty much the same thing. This is where you're going to need to do bevel cuts, and you're also going to have a lot of gluing tabs, so that bevel cut can glue onto that gluing tab and give it that nice rounded muscle separation. So you'll notice on the Pepakura file software, and then also when you print it, a lot of the templates will have these cuts in them. They're called darts. I call them notches. I don't know, you call them anything, but what I do to deal with this is I don't just trace this onto the foam, never do that. So what I do is I usually tape these together with packing tape. I tape it up pretty well so it doesn't come apart when you're tracing it. And you'll get something that looks like this. So you're probably wondering, how do you trace that onto the foam? Well, it's a skill that you need to learn and master. So once these all are taped, you just simply press down on the foam like that, and then you trace the template, squish down onto the foam, and then you flip it and do the other side if it calls for a corresponding side, if the part has a symmetrical area on the other side. Another thing you want to do to reduce seams is, obviously I've said this already, just to reiterate, you want to tape large pieces together, and then that way you reduce that seam and it creates a larger section. Like on the Pepakura file designer and the 2D side, which is the right side where all the flat pieces are, you can't fit everything on a sheet, so you have to cut and split a lot of the pieces. So say like this section here, and now what you want to do is you want to merge these two pieces to create a larger section, because you don't want this seam here and then having to glue these. It's kind of redundant. Might as well merge them and then trace them onto the foam, and then you have a full section, because this is actually part of the leg muscle, so you want that nice piece when you heat shape it and everything. So now it's taped up, you have one full section. So go through the file, click on any other sections that you can see, merge them together, create larger sections. You'll reduce seams along with taping the seams up here with the technique of pressing the template down, and you should be fine. Okay, so the reason that this works, I say it all the time in my videos, is because you're losing, when you press this down on the foam and you trace it, technically you're losing some of that shape, right? And you're losing some of the size of the template, but it kind of doesn't matter, because when you actually heat shape the foam over something like a ball or something like I showed you already, you're actually stretching the foam, so you're getting that loss back. So when you heat shape it, you kind of get this shape again, so the way you taped it. So pressing it down, don't worry about it. Remember, it doesn't always work. You can't make the craziest curve. That's why sometimes you have to split the parts on the Pepakura Designer, and you'll have to use a seam. Like, you can't make just one giant piece sometimes. You have to use good judgment, how many, how big the piece can be, how complex the curves are. So keep that in mind. So go on, look for other pieces that you can merge and make larger sections. So once you have all your templates ready to go, we're going to trace them onto the foam, cut them out, glue them together. We should have a pair of bat armored legs. Wait, hold on. One more tip. Don't go anywhere. With the templates, if you think you're going to use them again, build it again another time, or you just want to make it easy for yourself when you're tracing on the foam and you're not worrying too much about the seams coming apart, which can happen, what I recommend doing is take some of the cardstock paper you used to print the templates on and retrace the templates. I've done this many times. You saw on the chest piece, those templates were retraced because I didn't want all the seams coming apart, because I wanted to be very accurate on both sides. So what you do is you just take the template, instead of squishing it down on the foam, squish it down on some cardstock, trace it very well, don't just rush. Make sure it's like bang on, because this is a representation of the original template. You don't want anything to change. So I traced it onto the cardstock, take a hobby knife, cut it out. Be very careful, like I said, this is the representation of the original template, so you can't be sloppy at all. Just take your time. Okay, so here it is. So this is the exact same template as this, just without the cuts, and now you don't have to worry about any of the seams coming apart. And you can trace this anytime you want without having to worry about anything. And then, like I said, once you heat shape this piece, it'll stretch and you'll get the shape that you need for the actual costume part. So I usually do this when the pieces have a lot of cuts, because it gets kind of annoying to deal with this, having them open up and stuff, because it does happen if you trace them too much. Then you'll have to just keep retaping them, especially if they come apart. It kind of changes the length of a certain edge. So if these two were to come apart while I'm tracing it a little bit, it will make this a little bit longer, and then the other side might be a little bit longer, and then when you're gluing it, nothing lines up well. And also, since this is something I really like, it's a Batman costume that I love, I'll probably make this again one day, who knows. So I want to keep the templates easy to use and ready to use in this kind of format. I know this is a lot of things to talk about, but these are great tips. This is what I do for my costumes, so hopefully you do it for yours, and it should help a lot. Alright, so here are the original templates. Traced them onto cardstock and merged as many as possible. Some I just kept because there was only a few seams, so this should be no problem, but the bigger sections I did merge, like this is the butt. So I tried to make it one piece, and then I'll just heat shape it. Should be okay. And any other areas like this one, this is a large muscle section for the leg. I do this sometimes depending on the type of piece I'm working with. It just makes tracing it onto the foam a lot easier. And like I said, you can reuse these if you want to build it again one day, and you don't have to deal with all these little cuts and having to tape them up, because they will come apart whenever you're using them and pressing them down. So this is always a great option to do with your own templates. Alright, so we have all the leg pieces cut out and heat shaped, but I will give you some tips to give you an idea. So this is the leg, so it's going to have some leg muscle definition. So what I do is a technique I created using some gluing tabs and some angled cuts. So to get that kind of valley like that, so you're going to have to do a angled cut here, and you have to have a gluing tab drawn onto the foam where the original template line is. So this is just an extension that you're going to glue on. So once you glue it on, you'll get that effect. I've done this many times. I did this for the cowl, I did this for the chest. It's just something that you need to learn and get used to. The more you do it, the more it comes naturally, and you'll start to understand this whole concept more and more. So I'm just going to start assembling, and I'll show you how the muscle tone looks using this technique of the gluing tab and angled cuts. Alright, so I applied the contact cement on these few pieces to show you example. Just another example of how to connect some of these parts and the effect that they get once they're glued together. So this is the cod piece. So this is just a straight cut, and you just simply get the seams really close. I'll go back later and sand the seam just so it's a lot more cleaner, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Right now it's just assembling. So now we're going to attach the first piece. So this is what I was telling you about with the valley. So you want that valley effect where it's like this. The only way to do that is with an angled cut and a gluing tab. Glue on the gluing tab and follow the actual line for the template you traced first. That's why you only put the contact cement up to the edge of that line. You don't want to go past it, or else you're going to lose the whole shape that it's intended to get once it's assembled. The angled cut gives you that effect on the gluing tab. Remember to always go on the back and close the seams a bit more because they might be lifted, and you'll have more of a secure bond. The first two pieces assembled, cod piece and the beginning of the left and right thighs. But I'm going to keep assembling using those same concepts. Like you can see, there's gluing tabs on a lot of these. Use the reference on the Pepakura Designer. You can see where the curves meet in a valley, and one edge will have to have a gluing tab and the other edge will have to have an angled cut. It's really simple. Remember, learn this, get used to it. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So now we're going to be building a bat utility belt. So we're going to open up your file and scale it to the same scale as the other parts you've been building, so that way everything's proportionate. So I scaled mine to the current parts. Everything looks like it's the right size so far. So the key to the belt is to do everything in layers. So you can see the tip I would say is print this in, like, you don't have to print this with the color on. You can remove the color with the what's that feature? Set materials to faces. Like, you don't have to waste all your ink, but when it comes to this, I would print this in color, so that way you get the actual rim, and you can separate the two pieces. So it's almost like you'll have to print this twice. You would trace it first, and then once you have the base shape, then cut it out, or else it's going to be impossible to trace this nicely with all being all wobbly and stuff. I just printed two, one without the texture and one with the texture, so that way I had the ring, so I just printed 2 pages, but you don't have to do that. This is pretty straightforward. Just cut it out with a hobby knife. And for the belt, utility belt, same thing. There's all the parts here. This is the actual belt that goes around you. I just taped it up here because it's going to be one piece, and then you're going to flip it like usual. Well, you know, this is all the basics. I'm not going to explain the basics. So here's the buckle section, and then these are all other details. So using the Pepakura file and even real reference, you can see which pieces, you know, have kind of like a raised area. 5mm for this, and then some craft foam that's really thin for this piece. And then the other detail parts use craft foam as well. Same for the logo here. I would use 5mm for this, and then I would use craft foam for the logo and the trim, because then you don't want it too thick, right? You still want like a flush logo with a little bit of a kind of like a 3D effect. Just be smart with it, use common sense, and just think about what foam you use, what would look good with what section. Here are the next bunch of templates for the next part I'll be doing. I'll be doing the boot, and this here is really simple. This is just a forearm section. It simulates like a forearm muscle that will go under the glove, which is also on the real suit. And you can double this as a calf armor as well, which he also has, that stuffs into the side of the boot. So I just use one template. It does the same thing. You just cut it and heat shape it. It's pretty self-explanatory. And you just fit it into the glove. The other one you just fit it into the boot. So I don't really need too much of this. This is just a knee armor. All you do is trace it, cut it out, heat shape it, stick it on your knee, Velcro, or stick it directly on your bodysuit. Not really going to get into too many details with that. So this piece here, this is for the shin armor. These are the details, and this is the this will cover your laces if you're using like a running shoe or something. I did two sizes because I'm not really sure, so I'm just gonna put this over the shoe and then see which one. This is like 10% bigger than this. I kept the scale the same as the other parts for this and this. This scale is 10% bigger than the scale that I used for the leg armor. I just felt it needed to be a bit bigger. It was kind of small and flimsy. These obviously match that. And this matched the original scale of the suit from the other parts. So this is 10% bigger than the scale that works for my body. Alright, so I've traced the shin. There's two ways you could do this. You can trace it and then flip it and then get the whole shin. And then you're going to need like a slight bend in it. So what you could do is you could trace both pieces separately and then have one, like you could trace it here and then trace the other one somewhere else, but have one as a straight cut and the other one as an angle, so you get like a slight angle, so that way when it's on your boot there is an angle like against the front of your shin. Because you don't want it just flat and then curved. It's going to look really weak. You want that point in the center. You can cut it out as one piece and do a valley cut, and that way you'll have a very soft edge. I'm going to be doing the valley cut because I want that soft edge, and that way I don't have to glue anything. Alright, so I added some details to the front. I guess this is the instep for the boot. So it's like those lines you see from the reference, and I also gave it like a border. I gave a detail line similar to how I did the belt and all my other cosplays. So another thing I want to do to this boot, I want to add the Velcro strap. Just a simple detail. Just cut some thin foam. This is like the craft foam thickness. I don't know the millimeters, but I got one of these things that usually you see on backpacks. I think they're called Tri-Slide Glide. I'm not sure. Tri-Slides, I think. So I just looped them around, and I have a little bit of a section here. So I'm going to glue this together. I'm probably going to put some Velcro just so it looks a little bit realistic and have it actually Velcro. So I'll just glue this together. I'll put the Velcro here, and then I'll turn this way, and then I'll glue it on this back side and glue it here, and glue this down here. This is version 2 of the torso. I made a change. I recommended making this 6mm foam, which is a 1/4 inch. It's much better. It looks more crisp. You can see, not as flimsy, and it won't buckle when you're like bending and stuff. This is a version 2 where it has increased mobility with elastic straps right here. So instead of gluing this part, I just didn't glue it, and I instead used elastic strap just in 2 points from here, and at the top point here I left the back open, connected the back plates with some elastic straps as well, just so they hug you a bit better. But I recommend sticking these onto your bodysuit with Velcro, so that way they're just nice and flush. And also maybe sticking some Velcro around here in the shoulder, so when you lift your arm it doesn't lift up, it actually stays flush to your body when you're bending. So that's pretty much it, just simple elastic straps. All the parts are sealed with the bounce. I sealed the emblem too, which I like because now it'll give it a little bit of a sheen, and you can see that the emblem is now sealed. It's like almost like it's one piece with the base, because I didn't want this lifting. So that's awesome. Chest is sealed, all the little extra pieces. So you can see there's a little bit of a shine. It's up to you. You can actually just leave the armor like this if you want, and you're done. Just mount it and everything. I want to obviously paint the cowl because I used quick seal. It's white. And the chest too, like the chest obviously you can leave it, but putting the bounce gives it a sheen too. I want to give it more of a texture. So I'm going to try to paint it, just use a foam brush. And I'm just going to use some cheap black acrylic. You don't really need to do much. The suit's already black, so it'll just all blend in the end. parts have been painted, but it leaves like a gloss. You can see like a really shiny layer. So I'll just do a wash over it. Do a couple washes. I've only done one so far. But if you do a few, it will bring down the shine a lot. What you can do is to reduce the shine is mix up some black acrylic and water it down a lot. Alright, I'm going to explain how the suit all connects together, starting with the undersuit. So I just have a basic spandex suit, and I just velcroed all the loop side, this is the soft side to the suit, because you don't want the hook side, especially when you're storing it and it bunches up, it will rip your spandex suit. So always put the loop side, the soft side on your suit. I use contact cement, it holds really well. So I basically put it on, positioned all the pieces, and then I just use the adhesive that comes with the Velcro. So get it, get that one, the one that has the adhesive. So you can just temporarily hold it on your body, and then when you take the suit off, you just trace it. You trace it with a silver Sharpie or one of those fabric, what are they called? Those fabric crayon things. I don't know what they're called. Sorry, guys. I just use black Sharpie. I can see it, you know. I can see it enough to where I know where it's going to be, and then I just put some contact cement and then stick it on. So that works. So I have one. I'll show you where I put them all. I don't have many. So I have one on the stomach. That's to hold the chest so it doesn't flop out. I have one on for the cod, so right at the waistline, and then one on each side for the hips, so that way they don't flare out when you're wearing the leg portion of the armor. And I have on the knees. This suit also has a hood attached. You can see it came like that. You don't need that because you're wearing the cowl, but it also helps with sweat, so I just usually choose the one with the hood and the open face. You can see on the back of the leg armor, so there's one here, like I said, right at the waistline. So there's Velcro on the side. Well, and also I forgot on the butt. I don't know if you can see that. So on the butt too, I have two pieces, one on each side, and then also on the suit as well on the butt, each butt cheek. The suit has elastic straps to hold around your leg, friction hold, while the Velcro holds it up from slipping down. This is enough for me, it doesn't fall down at all. Okay, so here's the belt. Just have the simple buckle. You can see there's Velcro on the inside, and then where that attaches right here. So that way you can unhook the belt. So that way when you position the belt, it's not crooked or anything. You can do it beforehand and line it up really nicely. You get the height and everything, and then you know it won't move around when you're wearing it. So like you can see, I added that tab specifically to do this. You can see the Velcro. That's the one that will connect to the one on the spandex suit for the stomach. This strap, it's elastic strap, just like the ones on the legs. This will wrap around your back and come to the other side. That'll keep the chest in place. And you can see here there's also elastic straps on the arms and on the back here. You can see that, so it hugs your body really nicely. When you put it on, you just clip it and you're good to go. Okay, so for the cowl, I have the emblem here. It's basically Velcroed on. So I have an extra tab here I put with foam, and I put some Velcro. I put Velcro on the back of the emblem so you can position it. Okay. And then underneath there's two strips, one on the back of that tab and one on the bottom of this emblem. So I ended up opting for a zipper option. Since this is a really basic cosplay, I'm not too obsessed with it being perfect, so I just put the zipper on the outside. This is an invisible zipper, so you don't see the actual like teeth. And I just glue it on the outside, and you get a nice flush look. You can also, if you want, you can just paint acrylic. I could have actually painted it with acrylic, and it would have blended in really nicely. But yeah, it doesn't really bug me. It's, you know, it's a basic costume made out of cheap materials, so I think it looks okay. And it also floats, so there's no tension. I think it's a good option. But you can do whatever you want. You can do Velcro, magnets, whatever solution you come up with, whatever works best for you. On the inside I did line the chin with some more foam, and I lined this seam here and these seams here with more foam. You don't want sweat getting in, and it definitely will come apart. So reinforce any seams that you can with foam or nylon, just so sweat doesn't undo the contact cement. Always keep that in mind. Okay, so this is the boot. It's really simple. I just got a tall boot, easy to put on and off, with side zipper, and this is all velcroed on. And then this sticks to here, so there's a piece of velcro under this too. See the velcro right there. And this all velcros to the boot itself. So this is the bracer I made out of the faux leather, and then I just stuck on the armor thing that's there, and then I made some spikes. I did use velcro to stick these on, but I super glued the velcro to this because contact cement doesn't really want to hold to this faux leather for some reason. It's made, contact cement's made for leather, but for some reason it doesn't want to stick to this synthetic leather. So I use super glue. You can use Gorilla Glue. Use the gel I recommend, so it's a little bit more flexible. You want this to have some give. You don't want it to be like super snug, because if it gets knocked around, it's just going to come off. So because the velcro is kind of floating with the hook and the loop, it gives you that little bit of play. So it was hitting my cape and everything when I tested it, and I would kept checking to see if they kept falling off, but they hold because of that reason. The velcro, because it's in there, it's soft and it's flexible, it's giving it that play, so it doesn't allow it to just rip off. Super glue the velcro down, and then contact cement the velcro when you're before you stick on the spike onto it. Like basically contact cement the hook and loop together. All you're using the velcro for is to have that kind of play, so it doesn't just rip off from the tension. So for the gloves, I take the foam armor, stick it in this synthetic leather glove. This is all optional, you don't have to do this. You can stick this directly into the bracer and attach it with velcro if you want. I just do this so everything's nice and snug. Alright, put my hand in, then I put on the bracer. Then I take this motorcycle glove that resembles the Batman glove pretty well, really close. It has the knuckle ribbing and everything. And I simply just put this on. And because this is over top of this, this doesn't slide around and this doesn't move at all. So there's the glove and the bracer. And finally the cape. I got this faux leather cape. It's really nice. It has all the segments you can see sewn in. So there's that seam, just like the real cape has. You don't have to. You can even get a cheap Dracula cape from a costume store. This connects with just a hook and a loop like that. I recommend either changing this to something like a buckle, or taping this up really well once you hook it, because you don't want this coming apart when you're wearing it. So hook it and get some tape, like duct tape, and just put, wrap it around, and then you should be fine. But this cape is really nice. I like it a lot. Has a nice sheen, and then remember, if you're wearing this, let this sit for like all day. Get all the wrinkles out before you wear it, so that way it's nice and smooth. Here is the Batman 1989 EVA foam cosplay complete. What I did to bring down the shine with the acrylic and the paper towel worked wonders. It looks so much better like this. I was kind of hesitant to actually do it, but wow, it looks so much better. Because the suit in the film, it doesn't look smooth. It's like really rough. The latex was cast really rough, especially the cowl. So like, I wouldn't do this with a return suit. I would probably leave it shiny and then maybe bring it down with an ultra matte varnish, so that way it's smooth and not so shiny. If I do the return suit in the future, I'll do it that way. I'm not going to do this. So the suit is complete. There's only one thing left to do, and that's try it on. But I have to shave my beard, because I don't want to have a beard, and I want to have the full look, because this costume is a dream of mine. I want to do it right.